Hello, Accounting Weekly podcast listeners and readers. It's Nicolaas van Wyk speaking. I'm again doing our podcast that we do weekly with Accounting Weekly. Accounting Weekly is the publication of the Chartered Institute for Business Accountants. Um, I suppose a very well-known professional body, not only in South Africa, but we've got offices in Namibia and then also in the rest of Africa. It's a professional body that accountants join to obtain recognition as accounting officers, independent reviewers, and to basically sign off financial statements and also to elevate their careers. I think designations are quite useful in this day and age. There's so much information out there, and you sometimes struggle to understand how to evaluate quality and who can you rely and trust on. So you would then select an accountant that is a member of a professional body. And then at least you know that you can engage with that body on the quality of services. There's professional indemnity insurance that we provide coverage for clients of our accountants. And our accountants commit to continuous professional learning, which is very important these days. SARS and the legislator keeps on changing and amending legislation. So you need an accountant that actually knows and is kept up to date with the changes. So that is kind of what the Chartered Institute for Business Accountants does. We also have a designation for CFOs. So if you're an aspiring CFO, we have a career pathway for you to reach that goal, and quite exciting things happening at that front as well. But today we're focusing on Accounting Weekly, our publication specifically for accountants in practice. It's quite a wide audience, being an accountant in practice, and I also think one of the more exciting things to do as an accountant. It's a lot of business advisory services. It's a lot of personal advisory services. Your SME clients always comes and ask and share their personal stories with you and ask personal advice. Financial advice definitely is included in that frame. And then there's the keeping compliant, filing tax returns for clients, assisting them with setting up their financial statements in the right order and format, and then navigating the tax legislation, helping improve them, increasing their revenue and their profits and so forth. But also one aspect of being an accountant in practice is being able to market your services. And we just now completed a roadshow for SIBA. We were in Bloemfontein and Kimberley this past week. And I asked the audience in the roadshow, what should accountants show on their websites? And the answer was, no, their services and their fees. And obviously now this is why we currently have as our guest, Charles Hsuan, to present with us and explain to us why that is maybe not the best option for accountants in practice to do. There's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think we as accountants is missing the plot here totally by trying to think that the audience is very interested in the amount of knowledge we have or the low or the high fees that we present, when in fact we need to show them something else. And this is then why I invited Charles. I recently met Charles at a Sage roadshow here in Cape Town. He was a keynote presenter, and if you are organizing conferences, maybe you're a stakeholder in education or you're running a software entity, then I can really recommend you contact Charles. He's an excellent presenter. He's well educated, well experienced, and he really shares some wisdom. He wrote a book. He'll share us now the name, and then some key principles on how to properly present yourself as an accountant to make a real impact in the market. So I just want to thank Charles for his willingness to share with us today this podcast on Accounting Weekly. And I'm going to hand over to Charles. Charles, please start with a little bit about yourself, your career development, and how you ended up presenting on that interesting topic at Sage.
Wow, it's Nicolaas. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. Hello, everybody listening to the platform. So let me go from the beginning. And so if we go back to high school, we all have so-called career day, and people ask you, what do you want to do? Sales coaching is never on their actual radar. It wasn't an available career. So how that happened was, growing up, I have ADHD and I still have it. And my parents, um, which is we are originally from Taiwan, our parents and teachers don't know what to do with me because I always have to be moving and jumping and so-called disturbances, so to speak. Um, and I was talkative, and I struggled in school. So I was definitely not your stereotypical Asian. That was my sister. So don't come to me for math problems or fix your computer. That's not me. All right. So my sister was the model student. She's an actuary, and she's a math professor. So she ticked the stereotype box. And fast forward a few years, I was doing my final degree in financial management. And Nicholas, do you remember there was a subject called the commercial law?
I remember that.
Yeah. So most of the time when I talk about commercial law, people like shake their head because they know the pain. It's like you have to memorize a big, thick book, and the test is like 20 marks. And then it just grinded me. So in my third year, I needed to pass my commercial law, and commercial law is a year subject, and I went in there with 30%, 30. So that means I needed 70 to pass. I worked my butt off because there's no way I'm going to let one subject hold me back for extra year. So I worked my butt off and I got a rewrite, and but it wasn't enough. I think I got like 48 or something like that. So I went to see the lecturer, and she was very kind. I think she gave me maybe half a mark for getting my name right and student number right, but it wasn't enough. So I was like 1.5 points short. So Nicholas, I had a decision to make, and I don't know where this came from. I initially, when I walked into the room, I saw a envelope on a desk. This is like early 2000. It says Flight Center. So I simply asked her, ma'am, are you going on holiday? She said, yes, I am, but I'm here stuck marking papers, and I don't want to do that. And I immediately banked it. And this is what I said. And I said to her, ma'am, first of all, it's December. It's the time of giving, right? And second of all, you just mentioned to me that you don't want to mark another paper. So what do you say? How about if I take one paper off your hand? And she passed me. Now, I ran out of there before she changed her mind. So why am I sharing this story? Because at that day, I realized the power of words. Everything we do is communication. Like, for example, Wes working in the background, he will type out something, that's words. You and I, we're having conversation, it's words. When people put on content on the website, it's words. I mean, you get the point. And then I realized the power of words. Not just that, but also there's certain lessons I learned from that day about sales, which is still builds a very solid foundation today. So that's how it kind of started. Like I was thinking, oh, there's something called sales as a career. Long story short, I've been doing this for 20 odd years, and I learned a lot of lessons on the way. Hence, I got invited as SAGE to come and share. So in the beginning, you were talking about when you ask your members, why is it a bad idea to, oh, what's the most important thing they put on the website? You said services and their price. Those were that's what they said, right, Nicholas? Services and their price.
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with it because it's a natural reaction. Because the thing is, and maybe you remember this, that I asked the audience that in the 12 years of high school and plus the 4 years of varsity articles, that's 16 odd years. Have you ever had a formal course that says selling, teach you how to sell? Have you ever had that?
No, I think that was one of the things that nobody knew about. It's just like
Exactly.
we accepted kind of naturally that you'll get clients. But I think once you start open your practice, you realize, but where do these customers come from?
Exactly, because none of us have ever been taught how to sell, but yet it is crucial. If we don't make sales, we don't get customers. If there's no customers, we can't pay the bills, and your business don't exist. You might be an amazing specialist, but if you cannot attract clients, you can't survive. So there's nothing wrong with putting what you do and the price on it, but there's something missing from it. So normally on a website, and this is what I've noticed, it needs to, because these days we browse website. We don't study and read the content word for, we browse through it. Very quickly, you need to answer three things. So for people out there, write this down, pen and paper. Three things your website needs to answer. Number one, what is it that you do? Number two, and this is the part that I see missing, how does it make my life better? And number three, where do I get one? What is it that I do? How does it make your life better? And where do I get one? So as an example, I had to practice what I preach. So if you go onto my website, Flying Kite, it simply says sales coaching for one-on-one and groups. That is what I do. How does it make your life better? I help you sell more in less time to the right clients. And if you like what you read, what's next? Book a call. That's it. And I can guarantee you 90% of the tax website you go to doesn't answer that question about how does it make my life better. So what happens then is you present me with 5 different websites or 5 different accountants. What do I end up doing? I pick the price because that's the safest route. Because I assume you all have the same qualifications. So what else do? I pick price, and we all know it's bad for business. That's the challenge that I see, that people don't talk about the how does it make their life feel better.
I think what you just said there is the basic problem or the challenge and blockage that stops accountants from growing their firms. So when you study a BCom or a diploma in accountancy, and you everybody tells you it's your knowledge that's important, and you go deep into knowledge. But when you get out there, then you meet the real life, the business world, which is more relationship, and where you have so many accountants with the same qualification. So now you reach this point quite logically, and this is where logic can kind of move you into the wrong direction. That how do you differentiate yourself, and then you end up very very basically grossly focusing on price, and then you think, okay, I have to reduce the fee, and in that way you discount yourself. You send so many wrong signals out in the market, and you set your path for destruction because you can't survive on that low fee, and then you end up with very cynical type of accountant that doesn't really believe in the profession.
Absolutely.
But if you take a bigger picture, then you see, I once did this calculation, and I'm so happy now that we're having this conversation, because I want you to help our members unlock this value, or getting at least a part of the growth. That it's an unbelievable amount of money that the big 4 firms make globally. One can just Google that. It's like in rands, it'll be like trillions.
Wow.
that they generate. So it's a tremendously large sector if you analyze it. And the question is, you, this one individual accountant, how do you get that? How do you reach that? And I think it relates to sales.
No, absolutely. And I'm very glad that you mentioned that we talk about the logic. So the analogy that I used during the talk is this. It's the analogy of an elephant on a rider on an elephant. So if you picture this in your mind, the rider, the trainer of the elephant, it teaches the elephant how to do certain things. It's very, very well trained. On most days, he will go wherever he or she asks the elephant to go. But the problem is, when the elephant and the rider get into a confrontation, we all know the elephant is going to win every single time. So what's the point of the story? The rider is your logical brain. The elephant is your emotions. And a lot of times we think that just by giving them more stats, more studies, more proof, they're going to go with us. But you're not talking to the elephant. And that's a lot of the time when I say that you're speaking to a human being, you're not speaking to a robot. The business owner that comes to you, he has fears, he has aspirations, he has dreams, he has hopes, all these things. So what I have noticed is, sadly, we haven't been taught to ask good questions. So if you go to a doctor, Nicholas, let's say hypothetically you have a headache, you go to your doctor. If the doctor will ask you a lot of questions, right? How long has it been happening? Where does it hurt? Is front, the back? Have you had any history of it? And so, did you have a head injury, and so forth and so forth and so forth? Am I right? They'll do the diagnosis.
Exactly, like, yes.
Yes. So what if you go to the doctor and you say to the doctor, I have a headache, and I say, oh, you're having a brain tumor, book me in for surgery tomorrow. What are you going to say to me if I said that? If that was my only question and diagnosis, will you go with me?
No, I'll go for a second opinion.
Because I didn't ask enough questions. And that is what's missing. People don't ask questions, or they only ask surface levels. So think about the doctor. They ask layer and layer and layer. For example, if I'm an accountant and I'm speaking from my own personal experience because I work with different accountants, is if they ask me questions to find out uh, why did you start this business? Why do you enjoy it? What do you struggle with? Why do you want to switch accountants? How long have you been considering? What's important for you? All those questions, you get a good idea who you're dealing with. And what I coach people on is over time, you will notice what I call your so-called dream client. So everybody's dream client is different, but basically it's this: it's people, number one, that you enjoy working with, it brings you joy. Number two, people that you get them returns and give them good value because they expect they appreciate your knowledge. And number three, they pay the bills. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Nicholas, the people that you enjoy working with, they don't banter on price.
Mm, true.
E- Exactly. So the people that on your platform, the business accountants, once you've been in the, if you make a list of your clients, you most likely will have maybe top three, four, or five clients that fits those category, and then peel back the layer. Okay, what is it about them that I enjoy? And then you can start creating a story because then you start marketing their message. So I'll give you an example. There's when I was doing the Sage event, I was speaking to one of the accountant, and he is by I forgot the area now. But anyway, there's a big agriculture there, lots of farmers. So from the conversation, he had this aha moment that why people came to him. It's not because he's a CA. I mean, qualifications. It's because he noticed his so-called dream clients come to him because they want to create wealth for the next generation. So imagine that's how he positioned himself. I'm the accountant to help you create wealth for the next generation so you can leave something for your children and your children's children. That's very different than saying, I'm a CA.
That's so inspiring, actually. And it actually, even when you said it, I thought, yes, I'm gonna start that practice. So it's like an emotional connection. It's truth. No, you immediately connect with something bigger than yourself that you enjoy, that you resonate with, and then it's very it then other people see that and they react to it, and then yeah, that has an immediate connection with the client.
But you know what? That thing came from me asking him questions because I said to him, "How did they come to the realization?" Because he's, and this maybe you have seen this in your industry too. He said when clients come to him, when they make money and when they think investments, the first thing they think about is buying property. They think buying property is the only way to build your wealth. But he knows, I know that's not the only way. So that's where he comes in. That's where his expertise comes in. Have you thought about creating maybe a trust or maybe ETF or maybe this and this and this to spread your risk, so to speak? So he not so it's like you mentioned in the beginning. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If you show interest in people and want to know what their aspirations, what their fear, then they will share. Once you know, then you have that, and you start collecting stories, and you start building it,
Mm,
and you start
mm,
saying it over and over again. Not in a mechanical way, because you have to test it. Eh? You seriously
mm,
have to test it because people change, market change in different areas. Just as an example, the Sage event, it was Cape Town, it was Durban, it was Ballito, it was Joburg. Four different cities, the crowd was different, extremely different. So you have to know your market, and the way you know it is by spending time asking them questions.
wow. So
It's
I
really
think
not
what
rocket
you
science, eh?
no, but for accountants, I think it is. I think you're like a you're revelational that you're gonna that you're sharing with us today. So I think you need to be self-aware who you are yourself. You need to then be aware, like you said, the audience in front of you. It might be different in different scenarios and places and venues. And then you need to be able to ask questions, like you said, and actually be willing to listen to those questions, which I think maybe accountants struggle with. Again, we so much rely on our technical knowledge that we don't hear what the client is saying and missing the whole real story on why he
Mm.
wants to engage with us.
So I'll share a quick example, like a practical example of something that they can use today while they're listening to this, and it's as simple as these few words, three words: tell me more. Nick, so for example, Nicholas, you came to me, you say you want to invest your money. I said, tell me more, and then you tell me more, tell me more, tell me, peel back the layer. It's like the why question. You ask the five whys. So why did you start the business? There was a gap in the market. What gap did you see? You peel back and peel back and peel back. Then you get to the real question. Because from my point of view, I was thinking about this before I came to onto this interview. That as a business owner, you are basically asking me to share things, i.e. financial data, that is extremely sensitive, that only SARS know and my bank knows. So for example, if I meet you on the street saying, Nicholas, please open up your banking app, let me see your financial statements. You're going to be like, go away, who are you? It's very sensitive, right? Maybe their wife and their husbands don't even know the financial details. So once you grasp that sensitivity, then you know the importance of trust. It's not just about money. It really is not just about money. If somebody come up to me, if an accountant come up to me and they're dirt cheap, I actually wouldn't want to work with you because I'll be like, something's not right. So it's a fine balance. You're asking me to open up my financial information. It's very, very sensitive.
I found that book, How to Make Friends and Influence People, quite important for people to understand that. And it relates to what you're saying. You first have to become like a friend of somebody so that they can trust you, and then they'll start engaging with you.
So speaking about that, right? So one of the questions that sometimes people ask is, how do I build trust? And I ask them a question back: how do people build trust with you? So basically, if I summarize the sales technique or sales skills, is sell to people the way you want to be sold to. Sell to people the way you want to be sold to. If you don't like people being pushy, then don't be pushy. How do you become friends with somebody? I can bet you right now, Nicholas, the people that you respect the most is probably people that care about you. They take time to listen. They don't judge you. They really, really want to know what you think. You probably can think of a few people right now that I mentioned, right?
There's a specific accounting firm, Clive Noland. He's from Nolands,
Okay.
in the Cape, and he's because you just want to speak with him because he has this ability just to make you feel calm and relaxed, and then then the trust starts.
So what is it that he does? You say he builds trust. What did he do? Share with the audience. What did he do?
So I think he's interested in you when you engage with him. He
Aha!
looks
There
at
we
you,
go. That's the
and he's
key. He's interested.
intently aware of you and giving you time and listening. And
There we
like you said,
go.
secondly, there's no judging, and you actually now feel comfortable in starting to share things with him.
Exactly. There we go. You summarize it perfectly. I remember, so years ago, working advertising. I don't know if you remember this publication called Entrepreneur Magazine. Do you recall this magazine?
Yes.
So I worked for them for 4 years, and I learned a lot about storytelling and how to use certain words. And I remember this from speaking to the editor Nadine, and she said to me, "In order to be interesting, you have to be interested," and that is exactly what you said. In order to be interesting, you have to be interested. So I'll give your audience another quick example, and this is sometimes I do with workshops with them. Finish the sentence, Nicholas. What do you
Do.
There we go. We cannot
What do you
escape it.
think? Yeah,
What do
no,
you
you
do?
can't.
You cannot escape it. If you go to network events, if you go to business meeting, if you run into somebody, that's a question you cannot avoid. However, here's the big problem. People don't take time to think about what they're going to say. They don't take time to practice. They don't take time to write it down. So for example, like the Sage event, you mentioned to me that it was great value. I can tell you that was my version number 5, and I did four dry runs. By the time you saw, that was my 10th take. So I didn't just get up and speak. So the way I process is I write before I design, I write before I design, before I deliver. I write before I design, before I deliver. It takes a lot of discipline. But if you want your business to stand out, it takes discipline. It takes a lot of hard work to refine and refine. It's like a beautiful recipe. So all the ingredients are there. And the good thing is, if your audience have been in business for more than 3 years, they will have data. They just need to. I'll give you another example why they should do it. One of the client that I met at Sage, she was very honest with me. She said, right now, 60% of her clients are not ideal clients. So I don't know if you have ever had that discussion with the members, if they have to be honest, what's percentage of your clients?
No, I think
like,
that is the majority of members will exactly share that with you.
really 60%. That's
Yeah,
very, very high.
it's very
So,
hard. That's why there's such an opportunity for you now within the profession. You need to transform this thing.
because you know what, and I agree. Like when you, and again, the lady was very honest. When you first start, you take whoever pays the bill. But as you mature, you need to start phasing these people out, because, correct me if I'm wrong, that people that pay you the least, they demand the most. It's like the 80-20 rule. They probably take up 80% of your clients. I mean, sorry, they probably take up 80% of your time. But and
Exactly right.
you're not serving the clients that pay the bills. That's low maintenance. Spend more time with them. It
Mm.
will help you grow.
I had this, maybe it was the same person, but I also had an engagement with a member at the Sage event, and she was now in this rut, stuck. She started off by going low fee just to get started, and maybe bought some clients from another accountant, but that wasn't really good clients. How do you now move away from this? What can you suggest for somebody that's sitting in this situation, and they so overwork because those low paying clients demand more and more, and you become so reliant on that cash flow, and you can't get out of this position you're in.
And Nicholas, this is a very, very, very good question. And I don't like to give one size for all answers, because everybody's in different situations. So let's just talk about this example that you're mentioning. So this is what I would recommend. I'm talking about if this is my business, and this is how initially I phased out some of them. First of all, you raise your price for those headache clients. You don't have to raise it straight away, but you raise clients. You raise your price. You raise your price with them for certain things. For example, tell me what can take up most of the day. Is it doing the tax return, a provisional? Give me an example.
I suppose it'll just be getting the right information from them, because they're going to be sloppy. They're going to see you haven't been professional enough, so they're going to take advantage of you. And then the second bit would be, yeah, those tax compliances and the engagement with SARS. Usually what happens is SARS is getting so stringent that the accountant, once they filed the things, then SARS comes with the queries, and usually they haven't prepared the client for that to happen, and then they absorb that engagement, the post engagement with SARS, into themselves, because they're either too afraid to tell this to the client, when in fact that's the highest risk area for which they should charge the most, because now
Uh-huh.
there's a direct connection with SARS.
Uh-huh. So are you saying that the accountants themselves are partly to blame because they didn't do enough preparation?
Absolutely, I think that's what you said. They're preparing, and yeah, I agree with you. That's the issue.
Yeah. So again, look, if you have headache clients, the easiest to get rid of them is to raise your price. Or alternatively, if you have somebody in your industry that you're not a big fan of, refer to them. Hey, I can't help you anymore, but Nicholas can. Here's his details. Please call him. So there's
True.
different ways.
Mm.
There's different ways of doing. But if you raise your price, because I can almost see this happening, because they're so sensitive of price. If you raise the price, they will just disappear.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah,
one
they
way.
will be.
But that being said, this is what I recommend people go on to what I call the listening tour. Listening tours is exactly that. You pick your 5 clients that you enjoy working the most, and you go on to. So, for example, you meet them for half an hour just to find out a little bit more about why are they working with you, why did they stick with you, and you will start seeing patterns. It's called a listening tour because you ask questions, then you shut up and listen. You don't object, you don't say but, you
Mm.
listen. And I've done this with those clients, and they get an aha moment because they start seeing patterns forming. Oh,
Mm.
this is why they come to me, and that becomes your marketing material.
Mm. Now, that listening thing, I think, is a key criteria that you shared and mentioned to our audience. Um, what I also thought that she could do is to split her practice between low cost and then high value, and then increase the fee on the second version, and then use FOMO to attract those low paying clients on what they're missing out now.
So you were talking about low cost, high value. Explain that.
Now, I mean, there's certain clients that only want the minimum fee, and you
Hmm.
could raise the price, but you're going to lose them. So I was thinking, but rather reduce the level of your service to them to a lower quality, lower level of engagement. So, in other words, you could have a low cost practice where you just use accounting trainees or accounting clerks or students just to assist, which you fully tell the client. You're going to say, for this fee, you're going to get this support, but I'm adding another version of my practice, it's called high value service or whatever, and then you could raise your fee in that regard. I'm just trying
So
to
the
see how we
question,
can fix the
so
problem of a
here's the
low
question.
cost. Hmm.
The question about that is because it's your practice. So if it goes on, so let's say if you let an intern do it and an intern mess it up, the client's not going to go to the intern. They'll say, Nicholas, I came to you. So
Mm.
that can become a problem because you're liable for because you hire the person.
Yeah,
And the last thing you want to do is be mopping up other people's doo-doo.
yeah,
Look,
yes.
there's
Unless you
the
change the
answer.
level of engagement, and obviously there will be an engagement with the client. You can inform them that this is a new way of working. Because how do you make the client see the value of what you presented in
Okay,
a way that
perfect,
they'll be
perfect,
willing to
perfect.
pay more?
Perfect example. And it's different for every single client. There's some people they just want to, for example, personal. If this is just my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong. Like let's say somebody is a salary earner, and they can do the what do you call it auto filing these days by SARS.
Yes,
So
yes.
if somebody earns a straight up salary, you can pretty much do his tax return pretty fast because it's not very technical, right? So something
Yeah.
like that, you can get away with a lower fee because it's not going to take up too much of your time. However, like I said, your the client that you enjoy working with, they most likely are growing other areas. If you lend your expertise, you'll see the areas that you can upsell.
Mm.
Like, have you considered, for example, I was speaking to I was doing a training session for my accountants, and I asked them this: put up your hand if all your clients know that they get a rebate on their interest investments. Do they know that? They Most of them don't know.
Mm.
And then I asked them, how many of your clients feel that they have enough spare cash to invest in other things that will get them interest, hence go up?
Mm.
So that's a missed
Mm.
opportunity right there. And this is where your knowledge comes in. Nicholas, I was looking at your financial statements, and are you aware of this a rebate of 20,000 as an example for interest exemption? Oh, no, I didn't, because I was looking at your numbers. If you move your money to this and this and this, you can still make money and you don't pay tax. Something as simple as that.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
then you can sell them something else.
that's just stating the obvious. So many times as accountants, we know the information, and therefore we assume the client knows it as well. So you have to
Exactly.
kind of teach yourself to state the obvious.
Exactly, because here's a quick question for the audience. How many of your clients are experts in tax and accounting?
Yeah, none of them are.
30%?
Mm.
What's
Mm.
your estimate? 10%, 20%?
Well, the clients, I don't think,
Yeah.
well, some of them, I suppose, would have a good reading knowledge, but very few of them will actually understand the intricacies.
Well, this is where your value expertise comes in mind. I mean, comes into play. But it takes time, man, because it's like drip feed. Because sometimes we forget what it's like not to know, and then we information dump, and then it becomes decision paralysis. So
Mm.
little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit.
Mm. Now, let's say that we're going to start closing our engagement. I enjoyed this tremendously. The last question. So, let's say
Hmm.
you are an accountant and you've neglected your sales element of your accounting practice. How would one start implementing such a sales element? Is it something that the owner should do? Does he get outside help in? Is it a different unit or department? What would you advise?
This is a good question, and it's got different answers. I think it depends on which stage you're at. If you are a solopreneur, or if it's if you come, most of your members are one man shows, 5 to 10 people, or 10 to 20 employees.
Yeah, most would be small.
So less than 5 staff.
I think so, yeah, especially the guys
Okay,
in practice.
perfect, perfect. So let's use them as example. So let's say if you are 5 people and less firm, then every single person needs to be selling. Every single person needs to be selling, and you, especially as a business owner, needs to sell. if
Mm.
if you have a fear of selling, then there's a problem.
Mm.
Then there's definitely a problem, because nobody can communicate the message like you do, because you know the intricacies about. But as long as you don't see selling as a dirty word, because I know some people see it as a
Mm.
dirty word. If you see selling as a dirty word, then you should rather go work for somebody else than own your own business,
Mm.
because who's going to sell on your behalf? That's my
Mm.
question.
True.
So if you don't see selling as a dirty word, then you can always work around it. And like I said, the first step, something practical, is to go on to do the listening tour by interviewing your top 5 clients and see what you come up with. Ask them, why did you work with us? Why did you stuck with that? What is it that we do that make you feel valued? What is it that we do that make you want to leave us? And if your friends had to ask you about our firm, what would you say? Well, so these are good questions, and you start listening to what they say. Again, you'll start seeing patterns. So that's a very practical thing to do for them to start.
No, I agree with you. Now, if one of our firms wants to connect with you for a consultation, do you assist them? How can they contact you?
So what they need to do is just to shine the bat sign in the sky, and then when I see the Gotham City sign, I'll come flying with my Batmobile. No, I'm kidding. So there's a few places they can go on to flyingkite.co.za, flyingkite.co.za, or if they are active on LinkedIn, they're more than welcome to look me up. Charles Hsuan, I'll spell it out. It's Hsuan. Or if you're on YouTube, you can just type in Charles Sales Coach, or even on the website, type in Charles Sales Coach. My information should come up.
So you have a very a wide presence. I'm sure they'll be able to find you, and when they go to your website, I'm sure they'll already see how they should present their own websites. And I think selling is the key thing. Technology is abounding everywhere. And knowledge you can just gain by a qualification or CPD that you do with SIBA. And that's kind of just being able to be a player in the field. I often tell my staff, it's like all cars these days are of good quality and all of the same equipment and the same tires and brakes and doors. So what makes your vehicle different? And it has to then come down to relationship and how well how interested you are in your clients and how well you understand them so that you can respond. So Charles, thank you for meeting with me at the Sage event and also for being willing to share with us your insights on our Accounting Weekly.
What do our defining moments look like? Just like this moment right now. They look like pride after achieving that long sought after goal. All the small victories along the way that didn't feel momentous until we saw them in the rearview mirror. They look like the courage it takes to take that first big step. All the times we fail and rise again. And without even knowing it, cultivating an inner strength that is contagious along the way. They look like the inspiration that comes from knowing that we are not alone. They look like the human relationships that give us wisdom beyond what data ever could. They look like the curiosity that comes from exploring, that allow us to create and contribute. They look like education that unlocks our full potential, using our knowledge for impact. They look like choosing our own definition of success, over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. They look like others showing up and recognizing our efforts after all the times we already showed up for ourselves. They look like being bold enough to be extraordinary. They look like you. Right now, right here. First, we help you see your defining moments. Then we help you seize them. We are the accounting body for everyone. We are the accounting body for you.